guess I have a fondness for management. All my background, most of my experience is on management. This is what this class is about. It all centers around how organizations work together. In terms of organizations are considered a collection of people who work together for a common goal. How many of you know individuals who live in an organization? We all do. And that's what chapter 1 is what it's all about. It's an overview of what we're going to talk about today. Management. Management is considered areas that cover it are considered planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, or considered some of the essential things that organizations really do. And it's defined as the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling of human and other resources to achieve organization goals effectively and efficiently. There's one study that says that most people in America are unhappy with the way that the country is going. A lot of individuals are not satisfied with their job. And it goes to one of the things you're going to hear Professor Green talk about is disruptive change and uncertainty in America and how that shapes our lives. And we're going to look at it from the lens of management. Because if this was an engineering class or economics class, there would be a different view. So it's going to be skewed toward that discipline in terms of management. An example that I was going to give, I work for the Department of Energy, and I'm going to go through this very, very quickly. I work in an environmental management organization, and our goal is the environmental protection or environmental management of the Oak Ridge Reservation. And for us, our budget is about $400 million. And within that organization that I work in, you have people that deal with waste management. You have people that deal with we call dealing with demolition and construction. You have project management. So there's a whole variety of things. And if we had more time, I would tell you a little bit about Oak Ridge and what it does for America. But what I want to share with you is you have different individuals in my organization. We have engineers, we have scientists, we have office managers, we have financial planners, and we all should work for a common goal. And it's an example that I'll give you, but we don't have time to go too much in there. Again, as far as the Department of Energy, there are several different disciplines that we get into, but we don't have time for that. I'll have to share it with you later. But just a little bit of snapshot about what we do in terms of we call it the four tasks that management does. You have planning, and in planning you're looking at the strategies, the goals, the course of action to accomplish certain things. You have organizing. What tasks can you put in place? Who's going to be in authority so that you don't have chaos? You have leadership. That's one of my degree is in strategic leadership. One of the missing components in most organizations today is that there is no vision. There is no vision within the organizations. And that's a focus on that key element of leadership. Again, there's control. Controlling has to do with how do you make sure that the operations and process are running correctly. How do you measure those? That goes into what we call control. Operations management is a form of control. So those are the four principles of management. In organizations, you have levels. You have traditionally it's covered in your book, but we have what we call the first level management, and they deal with the day-to-day tasks. They're usually dealing with the non-supervisory employees. They're making sure that the task is fulfilled. Then you have another layer called middle management, and they're looking more into resources. How do we allocate resources in order to give the first line supervisor the materials, the supplies, the training in order to meet their tasks. Then we have a third level. The third level we call top management. Top management, they're the strategists. What industry should we pursue? You know, what are our competitive advantages? And there's their goals. Now, in traditional organizations, all the power goes where? Where most all the power is centered? At the top. Most of the power is at the top. In the 21st century organizations, power is really shared. And that's really the struggle that we have in America. How do you do that in terms of dealing with that? And you'll see who's going to know when change. This is what we call interactive. I'm going to ask you, when something happens bad in the organization, and you have people that's working at the area, who do you think will be the first one to know? Those individuals or the CEO? I'm just asking you, who do you think would know sooner if they're seeing problems? They're working with customers, they're having problems. Who do you think would know first? The first line individuals. Yet, most of the decision making is done at the top. Does anyone see an issue or problem with that? And so that's what we struggle. And we're going to go, you'll see why it's been a struggle for a very, very long time. Again, there are certain skills, and we talked about that, conceptual skills. How do you analyze and break down problems? The terminology that we call that now, critical thinking. How do you critically think through problems? Decision making. And I believe if one can improve their decision making, they can improve their competitive advantage. Or someone may improve their quality of life. So there are certain skills that managers need to have. The other one is we call strategic planning, the ability to look beyond today. Most managers deal, how do I survive my day-to-day operations? They do not look any further than that. A year, daily, and we really know that it takes an individual to look abroad. Human skills. Now, how do we hire people? Well, Joe, he was a great accountant. He was dynamic. He knows his job. And what do we do to help Joe get advanced? We put him into management. What do we find out putting him into management? Joe hates people. He hates people. And he's the human resource manager. That's what we do to people. Because we look at the technical skills that they have. So we call it the human skills, or we call soft skills. And it's because it's very difficult to measure. How am I getting along with other skills? And so, but that is a very critical skill that you learn. Technical skills. We want people that's competent. If I'm doing accounting, if I'm doing finance, I'm doing engineering, I need to do those items well. Banking, I need to do those things well. So having those skills are very critical in terms of managing others. Core competencies. Anybody tell me what core competencies is? Core competencies. What you do better than anything else. What do corporations outsource? What do they outsource? Non-core competencies. So I'm going to outsource things I don't do so well. So companies. So in the old days, Sears. Anybody know about Sears and Roebuck? What were they known for initially? Kellogg's. They started out with Kellogg's. Then in the 80s, they blew up. They started, well, before that, I guess the 70s were their heyday. They started getting into financial stuff and fixing homes and doing improvements. They blew up. Sears finds themselves struggling. Sears realized we really don't know who we are. We really don't know who our customers are. Sears had lost their core competencies. And so, as organizations move forward, they try to compete. There's something to be said about expanding for markets, growing your business lines. But then we have to always remember, what do we do best? And that's what you'll still turn when we talk about later is niche, growing those niches in terms of that. So we know core competencies is an important thing that organizations and people need to have. Again, challenges. How do I fight my competition when they're not next door to me? They're all across the world, and I fight them. I try to fight them. I do not understand them. And as corporations within my own country, and I was dealing with Denso. We had an executive come to Denso, come to talk to our class last semester. Denso said they had outsourced some of their functions to Mexico. And the lady said it was really no problem or really no thought about it, because paying somebody $45 an hour versus going to Mexico and paying somebody $5 a day, there was no problem. So that whole thing we talk about in the blog, how do I become indispensable as an organization? It's what we face when we deal with global competition. Will price be the prevailing feature that I have? If I can offer a cheap product, I can compete across the world. And I suggest to you, if that is the recipe for success, we have no way to win. But if there are other things in terms of innovation and creativity, we need to look at. Again, build a competitive advantage. Ethics. Who do we trust? Trust is almost at an all-time low. Can I trust my boss to look out for me? There's no more contract with my employees. And so now, we talk about diversity. Diversity comes in various realms. My kids, they're we call millennials, Echo boomers. They're texting at the same time. They're talking to me. They're talking to their friends. They're doing their homework all at the same time, and they're driving. Wordsmith. But you have to learn how do we manage those individuals. When the work ethic is different. How do we deal with that? And those are the challenges for managers that we deal with. In terms of global crisis, we have in our hands some of the things that we deal with. Again, how do we become competitive? Well, in management theory, we know efficiencies. How do we get better at doing something? How do we introduce new ideas and concepts, and we call the term innovation? How do we get quicker? That's what we call speed of delivery. How do we increase the quality? And guess what? Guess who's gotten smarter? Anybody know who's gotten smarter? The customer. So I expect quality. When I buy a product from Korea or Germany or from Mexico, there's a certain inherent quality that I expect. So how do you compete on that when you're also trying to compete on price? Interesting question.